Welcome to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. This is the podcast dedicated to people who want to speak more as a way to build their income and grow their business.
Well, welcome everyone to the Wealthy Speaker Podcast. I'm your host, Jane Atkinson. Now, sometimes I mention my book, The Wealthy Speaker 2.0, in this podcast. I'm very proud of that book, but I also have a daily success planner and journal. And right now we have the best price going on the book and journal combo. So that is what this podcast is brought to you, is by the book journal combo. Head on over to speakerlauncher.com/journal, and you'll see that not only is there a terrific price, but there's also a couple of bonuses that I think you're going to love, including a special video series called Daily Success Habits. There's something very powerful about using the Wealthy Speaker Daily Success Planner and Journal every single day. It drives a type of momentum that makes you unstoppable. I'm super proud of this combo, and I hope you'll check it out. Now, today we are talking about change. Over nearly 3 decades, I have seen our industry go through tremendous amounts of change, and today we're going to talk about how to stay ahead of it. Our special guest is Brian Palmer. Welcome, Brian.
Hey, Jane. Great to be here with you.
Now, let me read everyone your bio. And your bio has recently changed, which is what really prompted this call. People will be a little bit surprised some. Brian Palmer, Senior Vice President of National Speakers Bureau, a division of Premier Speakers Bureau. His company was acquired by Premier on July 1st of 2018, and Brian's role will focus primarily on helping event owners produce effective events. Brian is the recipient of the International Association of Speakers Bureau's John Palmer Award and MPI's International Supplier of the Year and NSA's Meeting Partner of the Year awards. So, Brian, you have a really, really rich history in this industry going back many, many years. But let's talk about your dad. John Palmer started National Speakers Bureau 46 years ago, and you grew up watching this industry unfold. Tell us a little bit about that.
He was a band leader. He got tired of traveling. He got tired of the music business and the music union. He borrowed a phone book from a New York hotel. He brought it back to Chicago and was looking at businesses that New York had that Chicago didn't. One of them was a speakers bureau. He did some checking around. He had worked in the agency business right after college. He worked for William Morris right after college, and he decided lectures were on the fringes of the entertainment business. He started the National Speakers Bureau in 1972, and here we are today.
Wow. So, I mean, really, you're probably, being a child of the industry, this is not a normal situation that you have kind of found yourself in. There's not that many second-generation speakers bureaus out there or left in the industry. And this year, you decided that you were going to sell your bureau. Tell us what was behind that change. I'm sure a lot of people in your end of the industry, the bureau side, were like, what? So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, the primary impetus was my desire for change. I've worked here 38 years full time, and I worked here 3 summers before, essentially interning while I was in college. I turned 60, and I kind of decided that I wanted to go about our work a little bit differently. And that was what was really behind it. I had received a variety of inquiries over the years from people interested in buying us. I talked to my 2 kids, and neither one of them, though they liked the business, neither one of them were interested in any time soon getting involved in the business. And I started exploring ways that I might be able to make the change. I had a conversation with Sean Hanks at Premier and in early December, and pretty quickly the idea gained momentum, and it became official on July 1st.
Wow. Well, that's exciting. And no doubt there are some things to get used to on your end, but you're excited. Tell us about your new role there now.
Well, my favorite part of the business is talking to event planners, event owners about their events, what they're looking to do, and making really good matches and helping them achieve the events that they want. And so that really is all that I'm supposed to do.
Yay! and you may be freed up from some of the people aspects of the business that can be challenging, and lots of the other things that maybe hopefully you'll be able to, my coach, Dan Sullivan, says that the definition of retirement is only doing the work you love. You think this can be it for you?
Well, I think so. I mean, it really has been challenging, the integration of the two businesses. Nothing terrible, but it's been a lot of work.
Yes.
But it's kind of exciting, and I actually have trouble sleeping because I'm pretty excited about coming to the office and doing what I'm supposed to do and doing the transition work. So I think, to answer your question, I think it very well could be. And with each passing day, I think I become a little bit closer to that ideal.
Cool. Yeah. And no doubt there'll be still a few months of doing things that aren't necessarily what you ultimately want to do, but that's change. And that's what we're talking about today. So you, in your span of over 30 years in this business, have seen tremendous amounts of change. What would you say is the biggest thing that you've seen change since you got into the business?
Well, simply, I think that the growth in the event industry, there are far more events. All sorts of organizations use events in some manner to help them achieve some objectives as part of their marketing, as a part of their training. All sorts of industries have been built up around events and travel. Travel is clearly one of the biggest industries in the world, and certainly in the United States. And so, and of the event business, and the ubiquity of speakers at those events has grown profoundly. The other change that I've noticed is with that growth has come a growth in the number of people interested in speaking.
Right.
And I think as much as the growth in the number of events has been significant, the growth rate, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, has the growth in number of available speakers has outpaced the growth in the number of meetings.
And that's part of the challenge of a speakers bureau, is that people think, oh, you're a speakers bureau, and they sometimes don't know very much about how you work or what it is you do. They think, well, here's what I talk about. Can you please get me some bookings? And that is not always the way it happens. Can you talk a little bit about when a speaker in their career might be ready to approach you?
Well, that's a hard question to answer, because there's some people that approach me right from the start, and I'm interested right away.
Because let's say why.
Well, they might be unique. They might be something that clients are persistently asking for, and that I don't have the right solution for.
Mm-hmm.
And very often it's a gut instinct. So the most common email I receive is from somebody who is interested in my booking them. So, if I get 150 emails a day, I get 15 or 20 from people who are interested in my booking them, and usually when I look at that email, it's not something that I'm interested in, or they are asking me questions and they want me to tell them how to get started in the business,
Right.
and I very often tell them to call you, or and I think I've sold a few Wealthy Speaker and
Thank
Wealthy
you.
2.0s.
Your commission check is on the way.
So because I'm not in the business of education.
Right.
One of the things that I'm commonly asked is what makes a good preview video, and I've got I recorded on YouTube actually an audio about preview video, and I've saved myself a lot of time referring people over to that. But getting back to your question, I don't have a solid answer for when it's wise for somebody to contact a speakers bureau.
Well, let me drill it down. A unique topic, and could we also say a unique bio? Someone who's coming out of a high level position, might you be more interested in, or some unique position that is something that you think could be of interest to clients? Is that a line item?
Well, if that could be, but somebody can have a unique take on a very common
topic,
and I'm not, like the topic of sales. When I started here a long time ago, we booked a lot of people who talked about sales.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, not many companies had a sales program or a sales system, but throughout the years, Wise Company have implemented them, and at least through our channel, the main where we book speakers for the main platforms at events and a lot of sales events, they've got a sales program, and they don't look to outsiders to help train the people or improve their sales at nearly the rate that they used to.
Right.
So we do book some sales speakers, but not nearly as much.
Right.
So on that topic, somebody that might have something unique to say could be of interest, but
it's a bit of a long shot. The other criteria is their fee is definitely going to need to be above a certain threshold for you. Do you have a minimum that, maybe 10K before you are going to be all that interested?
No, not necessarily, because
you still get the odd under 10K speech.
Well, we've got a lot of clients that book a lot of speakers,
mm-hmm.
and they don't always have $10, $15, or $20,000.
Okay.
And I like to be able to help them. And I know a bunch of excellent speakers under $10,000. So
Sure.
I don't want to say that I need more. I know a bunch of excellent ones, and so I'm able to help clients with that sort of thing, and they like not having to guess or hope that a speaker who is moderately priced is going to be able to do an excellent job.
Okay, fair enough. And would you say, just on that topic before I move on to, and we'll share that link to the YouTube that you did on what you think is important in a video, because I think these are kind of the 4 criteria to be thinking about to see whether or not you're ready for a bureau. You have a unique spin on a topic, or something about you that might be unique. You have we won't say super low fee, but let's say your fee is in a reasonable area, and you likely are going to need to have a video on that. Can you tell us what your average Are you comfortable sharing what your average booking might be? Booking fee amount?
It's over $20,000.
Over 20. So I just want people to understand that that's where you sit on a daily basis, and
Yeah.
you might do some favors for clients under 10K, but that's not normally what you're booking every single day.
Right.
So just to kind of help educate people who may not be as familiar with what's going on with you. So we're talking about change. How much has technology played a role in what's gone on in the last few years in the business?
Well, I think the big change with technology has been augmenting somebody's ability to hang up a shingle and portray their real or a perceived competence, and to use optimization aggressively to attract potential buyers.
So the good internet marketers, are you talking about speakers bureau, speaker management, or are you talking about speakers themselves?
Well,
or all of the above?
When I was answering your question, I had speakers in mind.
Okay.
It used to be hard to hang up your shingle. Now it's easy to hang up your shingle.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I said appear to be competent.
Right.
And to use optimization and ad buys and other marketing methods to draw people to your website and develop a pipeline of inquiries.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And they might get booked the one time, Brian, but they probably, if they're not as competent as the threshold requires, they won't get asked back. They won't get the spin-off, and they'll just have to keep doing the one-offs.
Yeah, I would imagine.
Yeah. So easier to hang out a shrink. I'm thinking in terms of bureau competition, I see more competition in my field than I do in yours. What's probably competing with you guys the most is the agencies, the people who are taking on speakers under management. Would you agree that it's more speaker management than lots and lots of new bureaus cropping up in the last few years? Or am I wrong that there is lots and lots of new speakers bureaus cropping up?
Well, I'm sure there are. I don't perceive necessarily speaker management companies or agencies as competition, although I'm sure that they are. Not all of them, but a lot of them go way out of their way to help me and help other bureaus do their job well and serve up useful information, do some curation, and show us people that they think that we might be interested in. Mm-hmm. Our biggest competitor is Joe down the hall, the guy that just came back from a conference who might have seen a speaker. When somebody needs a speaker, they'll often call me, or they'll go down the hall and talk to Joe. Hey, you just came back from a conference. Did you see a really good speaker? So I'm often competing with somebody who's a known quantity to the event owner.
Right.
And one of the trends that I've noted is people playing it safe with the speakers that they hire. Mm-hmm. And if they can, they might know me, but they probably know their employee or their coworker down the hall. And if this person can vouch for the speaker having seen them, that carries a lot of weight. It also allows them to put off some of the responsibility for that selection on that person down the hall.
Joe.
Yeah, Joe.
It was Joe's fault.
Who got that speaker? That was Joe's idea.
Okay, fair enough. So, okay, that's really interesting to know that that is the case. When you let's talk a little bit about some of the interesting things that you're seeing happening in meetings these days. You've mentioned something about moderated Q&A. So from the speaker's perspective, we need to know that clients are asking for this and this and this, which might be a little bit unusual. So let's talk about the moderated Q&A a little bit first.
Well, when I mentioned that, it had to do mostly with people that might be well known or industry heavyweights who people want to have at their events, but that person might not have developed a set of presentations or a presentation. Way back, it was kind of not very popular to have, say, a celebrity come and just answer questions. But as organizations have wanted more and more to have celebrities appear at their events, they've become dramatically more accepting of moderated Q&A. So what that's done is dramatically increase the number of available celebrities who will come to appear and answer questions at a event.
Right.
There are a lot more celebrities. The competition for TV slots and movie slots and all the different forms of media has become a lot more keen, and so there's a huge desire for a lot of celebrities to make these appearances because it's good money and it can be easy money.
Right,
but I've gone to a lot of events and seen a lot of big name celebrities, and I'm impressed both with how excited the audience has become and how really well they answer questions. I've seen Steve Wozniak; he did a fantastic job answering questions. Gwyneth Paltrow, those are just two, and the audience adored them. Now, I'm sure they were both very expensive. I unfortunately did not make either one of those bookings, but I sure enjoyed them both.
That's actually an interesting kind of back segue into you going to an event and seeing speakers that you didn't book there and thinking to yourself, okay, now I'm interested in that speaker, whereas before I might not have been. Can we add that to the list of, when the time is right to put you in front of speakers bureaus is actually when they've lost a few bookings to you. That's when they might be more interested to sit up and take notice because they want to be able to secure that business themselves next time.
Well, I'm always interested in seeing who sells and who doesn't. And I always ask the question, I always don't get the answer. Who did you end up booking and how did you arrive at that person?
Yes.
And so what the answer to the question that you asked before, who do I lose business to? More than another speakers bureau, more than any agency or speaker management company, it's someone had seen. And when I hear somebody's name repeatedly, I pay attention.
Yes, for sure. So you come at the booking from a place that maybe isn't like everybody else because you have been walking the halls of the Meeting Professionals International now for many, many moons, served as president of MPI. Do I have that right?
President of the Chicago chapter. I was on the international board,
international board.
Yeah.
And so you understand the meeting from an angle that maybe some people do not. And what are some of the first questions that you might ask a client when they come to you and say, we need a speaker?
Well, I often ask, why are they having the event? And why are they having a speaker? And what do they want that speaker to do? And, for me to make really good recommendations, I need to have a basis for it. So I tend to ask questions that will give me a good basis on which to base the recommendations that I make. I'm not in the business of representing individual and selling individual speakers. I'm there to listen and recommend, and then provide the proofs on which somebody can make a decision, and then handle all the details in a way that will help everything go very well.
Right. And you're a matchmaker in that regard. So how many speakers might you present them? Sometimes they'll ask for a particular number, but if it's totally up to you, will you give them 3, or how many speakers will you present?
Well, sometimes I ask that question, how many do you want? I tend to try to limit the number if I can, unless the client has too many criteria that they're using. But I think 3 is a very solid number, and to suggest that a number of people came to mind, and I checked who was available, and I picked 3 that I believe would be the best fit for what you're looking to do. I don't want to send 10 or 15,
Overwhelm them,
and give them too many choices. That sometimes they want that, but to me, that's usually a bad sign when they want to look at a lot of different people.
Right.
Not always, but it often is.
Right. So, thinking about it this through the eyes of a speaker, and I'm out there and I'm trying to compete for this business, what are some things that you have seen? Would you say that it often comes down to how the video plays, or are other factors being taken into account if the video doesn't necessarily sell them? Is it more the video and then the phone call? Like, what's the process that says you've made it from the short list to getting the gig?
Well, that sort of depends on how the suggestion arrived. If the suggestion was made by somebody that the decision makers know, that really changes the equation. I've often seen situations where somebody was highly recommended, and then when the buyer saw the videotape, that immediately disqualified them from being considered.
Right.
So a tape can be a qualifier, but it can also be a disqualifier.
Right.
It depends. If it's one business person, one event owner, they can do what they want. If it's a committee, that can be, it's hard for 5 or 7 people to decide on one speaker. And often it's in those situations where people really want to shop. Well, that was good, but what else do you have?
Right.
And so, sometimes we go to 2 and 3 rounds. But again, just like when somebody wants to look at too many speakers, the more rounds they go,
it gets worse.
I think that the odds of me making the connection goes down. But very, very often they end up hiring somebody that was in my first batch. Because it was a good recommendation.
Yeah. They say a confused buyer doesn't buy, and that's the situation. As soon as you pile on more confusion, then they start to, and of course a committee, my goodness, you can never please 5 people on one idea. Anyway, it's very difficult to do. Talk about some of the, people are always saying, well, what's hot? I want to speak on that. Well, that's not really how it works in my books. You speak on what you know and what you're an expert on and what you're passionate about. That's our goal. What would be some of the topics that you have been booking now consistently for 20 years that just will not change?
Is it okay if I tell you, Jane, that I hate that question?
Yes, it's okay.
Because I agree with you that people should speak on what they know.
It doesn't matter what's hot.
Right.
Right.
And mean, one of the things that I do is we rate speakers. We have a very aggressive rating system.
Ooh.
And I will often look at the highest rated speakers in a price range a client wants. And it's not a really good fit for what they want, but it's a really good speaker who does excellent work consistently, has great video that people see and buy from. And so because when it comes down to it, the speaker needs to be right, but they need to be really good on stage. And so I tend to err on the side of recommending speakers who are really good, who have really good proofs, and who might be an imperfect fit.
Right. Okay. Can we talk just from the perspective of people who are already in the space of the topics that we talk about? I'm trying to go at that question from a different track now because you hate that question. For the people who are already in the leadership space, would you not say that leadership is a tried and true, that you've been booking it for 20 years and you'll probably continue?
Yeah, there's certain fundamental topics like leadership,
what else?
Communication, taking risks,
okay,
or some fashion of taking risks, not always needing things to be perfectly lined up before you take that stride.
Okay.
In some way, the classic motivational message that there's a correlation between what you expect and what you get.
Mm-hmm. What about like a personal responsibility type of thing? Accountability?
People want their human resources to be better, their human resource.
Okay.
So people who do that particularly well from a large variety of angles are, I think, always going to be popular.
Hot. Okay.
But at the same time, people will often see a speaker who does a really nice job, and they see it and they hear it and they feel it and they think, you know what, I want that at my meeting. I want that feeling.
Right.
It's not something that I've necessarily thought about having before, but I want that magic. I want that laughter. I want those insights. I want to see the heads of my attendees nodding like they did on that preview video or at that session that I just attended.
Right. Like Kendra Hall as an example on storytelling. Storytelling wasn't necessarily a topic that you've been booking for the last 20 years, but it's probably come in and out in different ways. And, she's helped to bring that more into the forefront. And now we see more of it, wouldn't you say? I would
agree with that. That's something that people are asking about, but it is, in essence, I would put it under the bigger heading of communication.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. Very good. So what would be one or two topics that have come completely out of left field for you lately that were unexpected, things that I haven't booked that either in a while or ever?
Well, sometimes the headlines drive interest in a topic.
Okay.
Like artificial intelligence.
Yeah, AI is definitely coming on strong, isn't it?
Well, people are asking about it, but they're not booking it that much.
Yeah. Interesting.
See, there are a lot of topics that people are interested in, but it doesn't get too closely to something that they're looking to achieve on one of the main platforms of their conference. They might have it at a subsidiary session, but they expect a certain excitement and tenor on their main platforms, and that somewhat narrows the range of topics that they'll likely consider for that slot be again less of a fit for maybe an interest that there isn't a topic, and more for somebody who does a excellent job and adds excitement to the meeting.
Right. So when, that opening slot has a certain expectation of it from your clients. You said excitement, you said energy. What are some of the other things that is your role when you are the person who's setting the stage for the conference?
Well, let me partially answer that question by noting something that it increasingly is not.
Okay.
A lot of people who plan events gauge the success of the event by whether or not there was a standing ovation, whether or not people said, "Oh, I really enjoyed that speaker."
Mm-hmm.
Often the event owners want to have the audience make some sort of progress, move in a certain direction.
Right.
And almost always progress has some measure of discomfort. Not saying they want the audience to make people uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
but increasingly they want speakers to challenge the audience.
Yeah.
And rather than an opening speaker getting people excited and maybe I'll look at things a little bit differently, somebody that creates an imperative like, boy, these are the trends. I'm really not comfortable with that. I better pay attention to what's going on here so that I can learn and I can be better at my job and be more useful to the organization. So there's a little less emphasis on joy and happiness. They mistakenly, a lot of the meeting industry is referred to as the hospitality industry, but meetings are not the hospitality industry. The hotel might be,
right,
but the event business, we're in the learning business and the progress business and the innovation business and
driving change. Yeah, I
some
see.
of the best presentations leave an audience in nearly stunned silence. And people being maybe thinking about changing careers.
Wow. Get the wheels turning to such a degree. Do they not still applaud that though?
Oh, they do.
Look at a standing ovation, even though you're really in your head about it. You might just go, yeah, wow. I don't even know why I'm like standing up, but that was really amazing.
Right. They often do, but not always, and maybe not necessarily happy. I think that the really good speakers have a wider range of perceptions of their talk. Like some people said, that guy's out of his mind. Some people might say, boy, I've got to make some changes. Others might feel, I better buff up my resume. I think it's mixed. So
wow,
I put less emphasis when I see a value. I look at a lot of speaker evaluation, a lot, and part of me likes seeing when they are rated 4.7 out of 5, but in how the audience feels about it and how the planner feels about it matters. But what also matters is how the event owner feels the person contributed to what they wanted to happen at the event, or if they've got other measures, maybe pre-event, during, and post-event, how they feel that the speaker might have changed the thinking and the feelings of the people in the audience.
Speaking about that, you talked about measuring. You have your own measurement tool within National Speakers Bureau, that you have a rating system of your speakers. That's an internal thing, right? Something that you've built into your system so that when you are searching your database, you want, is it like a star rating? Tell me a little bit about how that works if you're comfortable with that. Is it a secret?
It's a secret.
Is it a secret?
Well, we look at a number of factors and we rate people.
Can we know what the factors are?
Overall quality,
Okay.
presentation personalization, level of cooperation, and quality of preview video.
Video. Okay. Overall quality, customization, cooperation. How easy are you? How big of a pain in the ass are you to work with, or how good or fun are you to work with? And video. Do I have that right?
Yeah. Well, and it's not really fun. It depends. Knowing what clients want in a speaker. I mean, some don't mind a difficult person. Mm-hmm. Others really mind a difficult person. So, we also keep pretty good notes on our clients to know who not to recommend and what not to recommend.
And that, we've been talking a lot on this show about CRMs lately and how important the customer relationship management tool is. And that is the use of a CRM to a degree that is just so very, very helpful. You might match up a speaker who you know to be great in all the areas, but they are a pain in the ass, to a client who is willing to accept that to get a particular result. And that is the beauty of what you do. You're a serious matchmaker, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, Brian Palmer, if there is any advice that you wanted to give to speakers about getting booked more, what might that be?
Well, work on your craft, not nearly as much on your marketing.
Good. That's good advice.
Get coaching on both the way you handle your topic, the way you use your background, the way you tell your stories. Half the audience wants to primarily have their intellect touched. The other half tends to want their heart touched. Really good speakers are those, I think, who go back and forth during the course of their presentation and do both and capture that. Because if the person making the decision is somebody that tends to want their heart touched and they hear a real serious, fact-filled, often very interesting presentation, they're not going to buy. They're going to think, well, that guy was boring. He or she did not get me excited at all.
Right.
Take your topic, work on it really hard, and don't necessarily listen to your friends who tell you that they're great. You know how on
tell you that you're great?
That show American Idol.
Yeah, the Simon Cowell.
Not so much. But then they come out and they're crying. Those people are out of their minds. Everybody in my family said I can sing.
Yeah. Don't listen.
Family members, friends, other speakers are a little bit too, I think, a little bit too nice.
Mm-hmm.
And the equation changes a great deal when you're getting paid. A lot of people tell me that they've spoken at a lot of Rotaries and they're interested now in the big time.
Right.
But you get paid when you speak at a Rotary convention. I've spoken at a Rotary convention. I didn't get paid, and they told me I was great. But
Best speaker they've ever heard.
Well, they didn't say that, but I know that I can't go out. I'm not a good enough speaker to go out and get paid to deliver a speech. And the higher the fee, the more people expect
Yeah.
of you and what you might do at their event and what you might the feeling that you might create at their gathering. So that's a bit of advice that I often give, and the lead tool, from my perspective, is a preview video or preview videos. And one of the points that I thought about making when you asked me to do this was the notion that those increasingly popular short 2 or 3 minute sizzle reels, they're often nice, they're usually expensive, and our speaker chums often say that they're cool, but from my perspective, they rarely close the deal.
And do you still prefer, I know you used to prefer a full-length video. Do you still prefer a full-length video, or could you do with just an unedited, how many minutes?
Well, I put a lot of time into watching video, and I often watch the whole video because I want to see how people start, the promises they make, and I want to see that they can deliver a cohesive, interesting, and exciting presentation.
Right.
It's different buyers want different things, and that's one of the things that I ask people: what kind of video do they want?
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot easier these days to have, and I do not address this on that audio that I recorded a few years ago, but to have 3 or 4 chunks of one of your talks.
Yeah.
And not something edited, not an edit every few seconds, but 5, 6, 7 minutes of you doing something interesting.
Yeah.
And making head nodding points. And, not necessarily your probably too long signature story, but you making points, head nodding points that the audience likely has never heard before. Don't just because you tell that old saw well doesn't mean that somebody who's thinking about hiring you or a bureau that you might want to capture the attention of, that's probably not going to do the trick. And one of the challenges with speakers bureaus is we see a lot of speakers, we've heard a lot of stories, and when we hear the same story again, it makes us a little uncomfortable.
Cringeworthy.
And so I think people tend to steer clear when they hear the same old stories or the same kind of points before, even if the person is making the points well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not interested in the same old thing.
I hear you. They have there's a level of uniqueness in finding those things within yourself and your own life and figuring out a way to make it about the clients. That is a beautiful thing. So you're saying for video that really not necessarily having what we call a sizzle reel, but just showing you 3 or 4 clips, 4, 5, 6 minutes each. That's all that people are really looking for. That's what your average client is looking for.
Well, when you said that's all that's people are looking for, and then you amended what you said. Different people want to see different things.
Yeah.
I think that kind of thing is more apt to bring people toward a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the shortcomings of video is it's a static medium, and sometimes buyers, when they don't see exactly what they want, then they won't make the buy. And there has to be some sort of a leap of faith, and buyers will often say, I need my people to take risks. I need them not to be so concerned about succeeding.
Right.
And then they ask me and look at 60 different speakers, and I'm barely exaggerating, but look at a whole lot of speakers. And then I when I'm brave, I point out to them that they're doing exactly what they
don't want their people to do.
Right.
That's funny.
So,
way to be brave, Brian. I like
thank
that.
you. So people will often retort when I say those sizzle reels don't work well.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, well, it gets them interested in seeing more. And I'm not sure that it does.
Okay.
I'm not sure if they watch your sizzle reel and they see somebody doing what they want done at their meeting, that person has a leg up on the sizzle reel. I mean, people are, this isn't TV. This is, I see some preview videos, and literally every 2 or 3 seconds, there's some sort of an edit. And
right.
this isn't selling toothpaste. This isn't an exciting, flashy television commercial.
If you have to edit your video in order for the client to give you the thumbs up, then maybe there's a problem with the speech.
We've there's that perception too. We've done some research, and clients believe that the more edits in a video, the more the speakers are trying to
hide something.
Hide something, or cherry pick what they do to try to create a certain impression. And every one of these points I'm making is arguable,
mm-hmm.
but I think showing video that gets a little bit closer to what you might actually do on stage increases if you're a competent speaker, increases the odds of people being comfortable to pay you your big fat fee, and most importantly and most critically, idle, say 500 of the most important people, and have the event owner point to that speaker and say, I believe what this woman has to say is important.
Mm-hmm.
And I've spent $1 million putting this event together, flying you here and feeding you. And I want you to sit quietly, regard what they have to say, consider integrating it into your behavior as you go forward in our organization. It's a huge decision,
mm-hmm.
and people go to great lengths to get comfortable with that decision. And I don't think a sizzle reel creates the kind of imperative to hire somebody with those kind of criteria. Yeah.
I like it. Well, that's actually a really good note for us to leave things on, Brian. I am very, very excited for you in the new beginning that you undertook in July. And I'm excited that you're still in the industry, that you haven't left us. Is there any plans to leave anytime soon?
No plans. And
okay.
You know what my favorite thing I can do now?
What?
Those 10, 15, or 20 emails I get a day?
Yeah.
My reply is, I sold the company.
Yeah. I don't have to deal with that anymore. So they can go on to somebody else and up to head office.
Yeah.
Head office. I like it. Well, congratulations on that. And remember, retirement is only doing the work you love, and you're just streamlining to get there. I'm sure it will all come together once all these details are sorted out. And thank you for being with us today and sharing some of your 3 decades words of wisdom with us, wealthy speakers.
Thank you, Jane.
I appreciate you. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave us a rating or a review and let us know what you think. And with that, we will say, see you soon, wealthy speakers. Bye for now, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Wealthy Speakers Show. Please visit speakerlauncher.com for your free Wealthy Speaker audit, and visit speakerlauncher.com/podcast for show notes and many more resources to help you catapult your speaking business. See you soon, wealthy speakers.